everyone, back out here working on the bobber project, and today we're going to be installing an aftermarket programmable ignition system. Today I'm going to be installing this Dyna 2000i programmable ignition on my Sportster, and first let's talk about what is the purpose of this ignition. So your stock ignition system, based on the position of the engine on the compression stroke, it has your pre-programmed ignition module from the factory that tells your coil when to fire your spark plugs. That works fine for a stock bike, and as you start getting the more performance in, you may want to adjust that, and especially when you go to different displacement engines and different compression ratios, the stock one is just not going to work. So you need something that's a little more adjustable. Now, something like this has pre-programmed curves in it that you can adjust, and there's even some more complex ones that let you do custom programming, but that's not something that most people will need. So running this ignition system for this project is going to be twofold. Not only is it going to give me the ignition timing adjustability for performance applications, and I am planning on doing some engine work to this later in this build, but it also is going to change some of the wiring in the location. Now, on the I believe it's pre-98, the Sportsters had an external ignition control module, like this one right here. This is a 7-pin unit. This was in the triangle cover under the seat. So after 1998, they switched to an ignition module that was enclosed down here in the cam cover of the engine. So what I'm going to attempt to do, while I have the bike all apart and completely unwired, is I'm going to install a post-98 ignition system by enclosing the entire ignition system in the cam cover. This is going to free up some space where this ignition module used to be, and that's where I'm planning on mounting the M unit, which I had mentioned earlier in this series. So that's going to come up, and also it's going to clean up, rather than having wires go to and from the back and front. This is going to kind of keep everything a little bit neater and kind of go with the whole process of me rewiring this bike. So it's going to kind of come hand in hand with the rest of this build, I think. That being said, let's jump into it. So the ignition module is going to go right under this cover here. Now you'll notice that these are actually riveted in place. So you got to drill these out, and then I'm going to try and tap them so I can put a machine screw in there, and so it's easy access for later. Here is the programmable ignition system. You can see, but there's these little dip switches on there, and these are going to correlate to different functions and curves, which I gotta pick from the manual. Okay, so the wiring diagram we have from Dyna Tech, we're going to use the stock coil, which is a dual fire. So we're looking here. So what we have is the violet wire, which is going to go to the electronic advance. We have the green wire, which they have going to the tack, which I don't have a tack, so I don't have to worry about that one. We have the pink that goes to the one side of the coil, the white that's going to the other side of the coil, and then blue not used. So we have the two sides of the coil and the vacuum advance. So then here we have the 7-pin stock connector that went to the module. We had this that went to the nose cone pickup, which is now all in one. And then over here we had the 3 wires. Since they're nicely labeled, we had the vacuum advance, and coil left, and coil right. So this should work no problem. Now because I have all this slack, which is very nice, I'm actually going to run this all right up to the coil, and I'm not going to need any of this stock harness anymore. So that works out great because this is in a nice, you can see this is in a nice braided sheath ready. Be nice to keep it that way. And it's all going to the same place, it's all going up to the coil, and the vacuum advance is right behind it, so perfect. So with the nose cone ignition now wired up, at least temporarily run, the next thing I'm going to be doing is the spark plug wires themselves from the coil to the plug. So the coil, if you remember, used to be up under or over the front cylinder under the gas tank, and because of that, the cables that were on it no longer fit. The short one doesn't actually reach, and the long one is just ridiculously long, and also one has a 90 and one doesn't. So we're going to do new cables, clean it up, as well as make them actually fit. Alright, so the new ignition is in. We have the wires run up to the coil. We should be pretty much all set. I do need to set the timing on this still, but I need power. So we'll get to that when everything's wired back up. So I'm going to leave this open for now. I still have the cover that I have to tap and stuff, but we'll leave it open until everything's all set, and we'll put it on once, be done with it. So moving on to the next part of this build. See you guys next time.